In the middle of one of the most important playoff games in recent Indiana Fever history, the spotlight unexpectedly shifted away from the court and onto the crowd. A tense exchange between Atlanta Dream star Alicia Gray and Fever fans spiraled into confusion, embarrassment, and ultimately, exposure. What began as a pointed gesture from a frustrated player ended as a storyline that crumbled under scrutiny. It was a moment that revealed more about the state of two franchises than the box score alone ever could. The cameras captured it clearly. Alicia Gray turned toward the Indiana Fever section, pointed at fans in the stands, and motioned for security to step in. A few fans were escorted out. The television broadcast cut away almost immediately, leaving viewers to wonder what had just happened. In that instant, the message Atlanta wanted was unmistakable. A line had been crossed, and their star had been disrespected. But within minutes, that version of events began to unravel. Eyewitness accounts painted a different story. According to fans sitting nearby, the supposed offense was nothing more than a shout of encouragement toward Fever guard Lexi Hall. "You're good, Lex. She's not even trying anymore." It was directed at Hull, not Gray. It wasn't vulgar, threatening, or out of line. It was standard playoff chatter, the kind every athlete hears in every high-stakes environment. Yet Gray reacted as though it was something much more. Security responded, removing the fans from their seats, but just minutes later, those same fans were allowed back in. Arena staff even apologized. That decision alone spoke volumes. If the incident had truly crossed a serious boundary, those fans would never have returned. Instead, it was clear the removal was a temporary measure, more about calming a player than enforcing actual misconduct. After the game, the story only grew murkier. Some outlets described the exchange as routine heckling. Others suggested there may have been something more serious, though no evidence was presented. The descriptions contradicted each other, and none matched what witnesses inside the arena reported. On social media, clips of the ejection spread quickly. Fans dissected the footage, scrutinized Gray's body language, and pointed out the inconsistencies. By the next morning, the narrative had shifted completely. What was initially framed as a disrespectful moment from Fever fans had instead become a cautionary tale of a player unable to handle standard criticism. The truth was hard to ignore. Alicia Gray had pointed out fans in frustration, and the story she attempted to spark fell apart almost instantly. The optics were disastrous. A playoff team, already struggling on the scoreboard, had managed to look distracted and disorganized in front of a national audience. Instead of commanding sympathy, the Dream appeared rattled. Instead of focusing on their opponent, they were chasing distractions in the stands. For Indiana, the timing could not have been better. While Atlanta looked vulnerable and defensive, the Fever seized the opportunity to project strength and resilience. The irony of the situations is that the Fever's actual performance on the court was far more compelling than anything happening in the stands. This was their first home playoff game since 2016. Nearly a decade had passed since postseason basketball had been played at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, and the circumstances were stacked against them. Caitlin Clark, the rookie who had revitalized the franchise and driven record-breaking attention, was sidelined. Sophie Cunningham, Sydney Colson, Chloe Bobby, and A.R. McDonald were also unavailable. Half the rotation was gone. For most teams, it would have been a crushing blow, but Indiana refused to fold. From the opening moments, the Fever carried themselves with a sense of urgency that had been missing in Game 1. Defensively, they were sharper. They rotated quickly, closed out on shooters, and dominated the glass. Offensively, they shared the ball, attacked mismatches, and played without hesitation. The crowd inside Gainbridge Fieldhouse amplified every possession. Decked out in red "Now You Know" shirts, they responded not just to highlight plays, but to every hustle moment. Loose balls, box outs, defensive stops, The atmosphere resembled not just support, but participation. Coach Stephanie White had challenged her team before the game, emphasizing the need for desperation and intensity. They delivered exactly that. The defining sequence arrived late in the third quarter. Aaliyah Boston muscled her way to a score inside. Seconds later, Shaw Petty jumped a passing lane for a steal. And then with the quarter winding down, Lexi Hull launched a deep three at the buzzer. It fell. The arena erupted, and the tone of the game shifted completely. What had been a single-digit contest suddenly ballooned into a double-digit lead. The dream never recovered. When the final buzzer sounded, the scoreboard told the entire story. Indiana Fever 77, Atlanta Dream 60. It was more than a win. It was a statement. The Fever had secured their first playoff victory in nearly a decade, without their star, without their depth, and against a team that appeared more concerned with outside noise than on-court execution. The performance was a collective effort. Kelsey Mitchell scored 19 points, including 4 three-pointers that punished Atlanta's defensive lapses. Aaliyah Boston provided 15 points and 5 rebounds, anchoring both ends of the floor. Natasha Howard added 12 points and countless defensive stops, altering shots and protecting the paint. Lexi Hull not only hit the buzzer-beating three, but also provided relentless defense and hustle. Michaela Timpson, a rookie, chipped in 9 points with composure beyond her years. On defense, the Fever suffocated Atlanta. The Dream shot under 38% from the field, just 5 for 19 from 3, and managed only 60 total points. For a team accustomed to higher scoring outputs, it was a crushing performance. The juxtaposition was striking. On one side, Indiana rallied around adversity, leaned on each other, and played with resilience. On the other, Atlanta appeared disorganized, frustrated, and distracted by off-court narratives. The Fever pointed to the scoreboard. The Dream pointed to the stands. It was the clearest possible illustration of two teams heading in opposite directions. The victory forced a deciding Game 3 in Atlanta. For the Fever, the path forward is clear. Replicate the defensive intensity. Limit Ryan Howard and Alicia Gray as they did in Game 2, holding them to just 19 combined points. Maintain the collective effort that turned adversity into opportunity. For Atlanta, desperation will be the key. After one of their worst performances of the season, they cannot afford another letdown. Playing at home, they will look to erase the memory of Game 2 and reassert control. Every possession will matter. Beyond this series, the implications are significant. For Indiana, this postseason already represents a turning point. Once considered a rebuilding project, the Fever now appear capable of competing at a playoff level even without Caitlin Clark. Their young core of Boston, Mitchell, and Hull has shown resilience, and the franchise's future looks brighter than ever. For Atlanta, the questions are more troubling. A playoff run that should have signaled growth has instead been overshadowed by controversy and inconsistency. The focus has shifted from performance to excuses, from progress to distraction.
Alicia Gray's gesture toward the crowd will not be remembered as a defining playoff moment. Instead, it will be remembered as an unnecessary distraction, a narrative that collapsed under its own weight. What will endure is Indiana's resilience. A short-handed team, written off after losing its star, rose to the moment and delivered its first playoff win in years. The Fever proved something important, that they are more than just one player, more than just a storyline. They are a team capable of fighting through adversity and making noise in the postseason. And as they prepare for Game 3, that truth carries more weight than any off-court controversy. The scoreboard never lies. Indiana Fever 77, Atlanta Dream 60. One team looked rattled, the other looked resilient. One pointed to the crowd, the other pointed to history. Game 3 now looms as the ultimate test. For the Fever, it is a chance to confirm their legitimacy. For the Dream, it is an opportunity to save face. No matter the outcome, this series will be remembered not for the controversy in the stands, but for the contrast it revealed. Because in playoff basketball, excuses fade, performances endure.